Okay, we're returning from closed session to our open session of our board meeting, and we'll continue with the agenda. We'll go to approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 18th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the March 18th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We will now move to our public comment. Public comment, I have just guidelines to present. Public comment is a time for the community to address the board with comments and questions. Each community member addressing the board has 5 minutes. Once you've been notified of your time, that your time is up, kindly step away from the podium. Public comment will be for 30 minutes and no more than each subject lasting 20 minutes. Please understand this is not an engagement time. The board will consider your comments in its decisions. For those comments or questions requiring a follow-up response, the board president or superintendent will follow up. And first we have Dan Charleston.
Board, Superintendent Balderman, Madam President, thank you for your time. I'm here specifically to say thank you. And as I say thank you, it's for bringing the referendum question, both in November and in April, recognizing that it's on the agenda tonight for discussion. I thought I'd share my perspective, recognizing that there are people, people of fine character who in good faith will disagree with me here, and that's fine. And so, but I wanted to share this because I felt deeply about it. First, thank you for bringing it. There were 6,700 votes in November, and as you guys know, the referendum lost by 1. Actually, as a friend of mine pointed out, we lost by 2. But it was about 65% turnout, plus or minus, in that election cycle. Last Tuesday, there were about 3,600 votes, which is about 35% turnout. And I know that there will be people who will say that that was the voice of the community. I understand that. But it's half the number of people. Just as importantly, there was an election and 3 incumbents won. Additionally, the other person who won was somebody who was actively engaged on the yes side. What was the voice of the community? What was it? I think for me, having served on the board, and very often when people run for the board, they use rhetoric like fight for the kids. It's good rhetoric. It's really good rhetoric. And I think you guys have done a fine job of fighting for the kids. On the other side, we heard things like, we need better alternatives. And so I'm going to encourage you as you think about your going forward stuff. One of the things, I'm in a coffee clutch Saturday mornings here in Westmont. And one of the things that an old timer told me is he wondered about mismanagement of resources. And I know nothing could be further from the truth. And somehow this board and this district has to address itself to how the finances of the district work and why you can't simply plow good money after bad into these buildings, and why it's not in the tax base today. The other question I'm going to ask, though, is as you think about what fighting for the community, what fighting for kids means, if you were to bring the question again, and I hope you do, what do you have to lose? If you're fighting for kids, what's your legacy? Is it that you want to be liked and you don't want to bring the question? Or is it that you're willing to fight some more? We all know that those buildings are untenable, utterly and completely untenable as environments. And so I hope if you believed that it was the right thing in November, if you believed it was the right thing in April, it's still the right thing. I'm going to encourage you to view it that way. From my perspective, I would suggest that November of '26, when you can, you have a bond issue that's coming up in '27 as well, and you can kind of piggyback that bond issue to find financing in a way that you can say that the school board is minimizing the tax impact of the next question. It's just a thought. But the other thoughts I'm going to give you are these. This is a really fine space that you have your meetings in. And so when people in the community come here, they get to experience a really fine space. Move your board meetings to the dungeon at Manning. When it's hot, have the community experience what the kids experience every day. Move your board meetings occasionally to the gym at Manning when it's cold. Have the community experience what the kids experience every day. Reach out to your friends in District 181 and have a board meeting in a brand new school, in a brand new grade school building. And have the community see what a first-rate school building actually looks like. Don't be afraid to step away from this space. Do that, in my opinion. Have at least one educational thing where you talk about 201 finance in detail, in full. Allocate several hours. Talk about it, right? And the last thing I'll ask is, what will be your legacy? Will you be a board and board members who fought for the kids, or will you be satisfied with being reelected a few times? So I want to thank each of you for doing a thankless job. And I want to congratulate those who won, and in particular, right now, tonight, I want to thank Angela, who I know Tuesday was disappointing for her personally as well. The work that you've done has been meaningful. And it's, I hope that you'll consider running again at some point. And so with that, thank you all. I appreciate you. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Leah Conover.
Good evening. So to just kick it off tonight, I want to be clear. I am not speaking as a representative of the board, but as a resident, a parent of 2 in CUSD 201, a frequent volunteer, and 1 member of this school board. My comments tonight in no way are representative of this board, and they are for this community. Since last Tuesday, there have been more than a few persistent thoughts and feelings floating through my brain. Frustration, sadness, anger, fear, disappointment, so many. But one continues to stand out, loss of momentum. I worry that this district, this community, will lose momentum, passion, and an interest in being involved. Families and individuals move into and out of villages every single year. People are always going to be moving in and out. That just is, right? In my experience, in the last 5 or 10 years, this school community has seen a number of devoted families join the district. I watched this first as a parent, and I saw these motivated families join, and these young, excited teachers come in. And it emboldened me to join the board in 2020, and then run for election in 2021. And I've watched this community grow and evolve as a parent and a board member since then. And in the last year or so, I've seen so many dedicate countless hours to this most recent referendum process. And I want to thank you for that dedication. Thank you for showing up to committee meetings, sharing information, and being a part of the process. Momentum does not just happen. It's built by the families, the teachers, and the community members that are invested in this district. I've seen it firsthand over the past decade, and I'm asking you to not give up on it yet. Don't give up on us yet. Losing stings. Losing hurts. And losing makes quitting super tempting. Stepping back, stepping away, quitting will not fix our challenges. Stepping forward will. The leaky roofs The outdated infrastructure, the crumbling parking lots did not just appear last year, and they aren't going to disappear on their own, and they certainly will not disappear because of an election. They still must be solved. Yes and no. Be the voices that shape our future. Help decide the budget cuts for repairs and the Finance Committee. Bring your expertise and solutions to the Facilities Committee. Join us and the Public Relations Committee, which just so happens to have a meeting right here before our next board meeting at 5:30 on April 22nd. You have solutions. Bring them to us and help vet them. It is so easy to say someone else will step up. It is easy to sit behind a computer screen and support something. Heck, it's easier than ever to give money to something. What isn't easy is showing up. Joining a committee, joining a club, helping the PTO, volunteering at the concession stand for the band boosters, knocking on doors, talking to strangers, terrifying. Retaining a community is not easy. I see you. I have been working on this in some form or another for 5 years since joining the board. I've questioned continually. I've questioned continuing every single day since winning what might be the saddest re-election bid ever. And I get wanting to quit. And I certainly have thought of a million different ways that my life would be better, it would be less stressful, and generally more positive if I did quit. But if I quit, I wouldn't get to meet and work with the wonderful, dedicated members of this community. The families, administrators, teachers, and support staff. I wouldn't get to see something come to fruition years in the making. And all things school are measured in years, not months. If I quit, I wouldn't get to help shape the future of this district. I'm not going to let all of the reasons to quit outweigh the reasons to stay. This work and the work of the community around us matters, and it needs dedicated, motivated people to do it. This last year was the beginning of your service. The coming years will be determined by those who stick around and actually engage. I cannot make a promise that it will be easy. I can't do it. I can promise you that you won't regret it. This work matters. This work impacts us every day. It should not be easy. It should challenge us. It should stretch us. I refuse to believe that this district is defined by its setbacks. We are defined by the work we choose to do next. So take a deep breath, take a break, recharge, we all need it, and then come back. This district, this community needs you. And when we all come back for the taste, I will see you on wristband night. I'm gonna be hanging out on the corner, it's over there somewhere, and I'm gonna be gearing up for another year. So come on over. Let's talk about the future, and let's take the next step together. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, I don't have any other cards for public comment. Are there any other speakers? Okay. We'll proceed with our agenda with the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Personnel recommendations, Dr. Kevin Ryan, Manning Principal. Leave of absence, retirements and resignations. 2, approval of DAOES representative. That's for our motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Motion carries. Well,
Welcome.
you're speaking later.
Yeah, yeah. But Kevin, I think Kevin and the team from
Oh,
high
no,
school.
no. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because it'll be under action items, I'll speak about Dr.
Okay.
Ryan. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So next we have our discussion, but before we Going to that, I have an addendum to ask the board for approval. We have Dr. Gibson here, who has a financial report that was not placed on the agenda earlier, but I want to add that. So we have a financial report given. I will do that after the Westmont High School presentation, if that's okay with the board.
To clarify, no action is being taken, it's just
So
discussion.
this is just discussion, so no action item is being placed on the agenda at this time, but I'm just going to ask for if there are any, instead of a straw poll, or any nays to that at all.
Sounds great.
So we'll have you, Dr. Gibson, after our presentation. So we'll move to the 25-26 proposed schedule change for the Westmont High School.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Kevin Weck, and I'm the principal of Westmont High School. I'd first like to start off by saying thank you to Mr. Balderman and our school board for being so supportive and willing to consider this schedule change, which we think is in the best interest of our students for next year. And then also, I'd like to say thank you, Ange, for your many years of service to our community, to our school district. You've been an outstanding teammate, citizen, and supporter of everything we've done. So just want to say thank you so much from all of us at the high school and the school
I'll be
district.
at the finance meetings. I'll be busting up the boosters.
Not going anywhere.
We got that. Okay, so tonight we're here with our building leaders. We have Ms. Jakubowski, who is our English department coordinator and instructional coach. She's here to help us with some of the insights that she has in terms of what this means for our students. We also have Mr. Mark Delisle, who is our department coordinator for math and also just another building leader who their insights are invaluable in terms of what we're trying to do for our students because they've been a part of our school district for so many years and they know because they look at our data and our students and they really care about what's best for them and our building. They represent our building as well. So just to kind of open up things tonight, I wanted to, in this schedule change we were hoping to put in place for next year for our students and our staff. Just to give you a little context, 13 years ago is really when we implemented PLCs. And the foundation of PLCs is really the 4 critical questions. You know, what do we want students to learn? How are we going to know whether or not they learn that? What are we going to do if they don't learn that? And then what do we do if they have learned that? And those questions really drive our work. And that's why our PLCs have been so effective is because of some of the leaders who have really embraced this thought process and really take data seriously and trying to use that to determine what's best for our students moving forward and creating strategic plans for each individual students to help them close the learning gaps early and often so that they can be successful when it comes to state testing, AP, just their curriculum classes that they're involved in, to also build the critical thinking skills that they need to be successful after high school. And I think that's why we've been so successful under Jack's leadership, but then also with our strong teammates who have embraced this and they have felt empowered and they've taken the lead when it comes to this kind of work. So what we started 13 years ago was great. And we built in this time 13 years ago in the weekly schedule on Wednesdays, where at 1:46, we wanted our teams to get together to look at student performance data to really figure out what they needed to do to make adjustments to help our students quickly and timely so that that gap doesn't get bigger. So that time from 1:46 to 2:46 originally was for our PLC teams to get together to look at this information. We also kept many of our students who were struggling academically to work on some of the skills that they needed to get their grades up to C's, B's, and A's. We said F's and D's were not good enough, so we held a high standard when it came to that. We've been doing that for 13 years, but we've evolved, and I think that we've come to the conclusion that we can do things better. So as a team, we got together to start to talk about what that really looks like. And some of that we started last year in terms of creating a flex schedule where on Thursdays, in the middle of the day, we had basically an opportunity for enhancement and enrichment with our students. And that's 100% of our students because they weren't able to leave early, they weren't excused, they had to be there and they had to get this individual attention that's been helping them. So we tried this out last year. And some of the common planned periods that we had for departments to meet in PLCs, we created within the master schedule. where the English department didn't need to have 146 to 246 to meet with their team. The math department didn't need it because in their schedule, within one of the planned periods, they were able to meet during the regular school day, which gave them the opportunity to start to create an ACT intervention system, which is invaluable. It's been specifically geared towards helping our students be more successful when it comes to the state testing. And this is support that they get that most families have to pay for. And anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 or $3,000, families will pay for this type of support where they don't necessarily have the relationship piece. We do that at Westmont High School within the school day with teachers that understand exactly where they're at and exactly what they need. So it's even more specific than what you can get if you go to a private company outside of that. We also use that time for SEL, remediation, enrichment, group work. So we were creative in terms of how we use this flex schedule to meet the needs of our students in a very specific manner. But then it comes back to the ACT prep. It's helped us be more specific with that and helping all of our students, where some students from 146 to 246 want to just leave. And parents are saying, oh no, you know, it's okay for them to leave because they have to go to a doctor's appointment, or they have to leave and go start working, things of that nature that we had no control over. But then also AP assistance and then academic intervention. So it was this idea that students who are struggling, we help them get to the point where they're more successful and confident, but those students who are doing really well, we then enrich that opportunity, take them to the next level so that they can continue pursuing the dreams that they have when it comes to academic performance. Here are some of the current challenges that we have with that time from 146 to 246, and this is why we believe it's in our best interest to change the schedule so that all students are there every single day, Monday through Friday, until 246. The majority of our students are dismissed right now at 146. We're keeping students who are juniors who need additional help on the ACT. We're keeping the students who are getting D's and F's. But to keep the other students, it's been very difficult because they're used to getting out at 146 because they have A's, B's, and C's, and it's difficult to keep them all managed within the building at that time. Several students would benefit from additional academic support. The idea of having this new flex schedule means that all students are getting this type of support, intervention, enrichment opportunities, and that nobody's missing out on that. If we're keeping just a quarter of the students from 146 to 246, that means 75% of them are going off and doing things that are not actually academically based at that time. And many students choose to leave, which creates a difficult dynamic. We're keeping some students back while others are leaving. When they see that, it makes it even more difficult to keep them on Wednesdays when they don't want to necessarily be there for the extra help. Parent permission, we've seen an increase in that, where parents understand at 146 on Wednesdays, they have an opportunity to have their child go and do something else. And that could be the doctor's appointments, it could be that they're going to leave town, they could be going to start their work, things of that nature, where we have a difficult time convincing them to stay when that's in their own best interest. And then we also have parent extension enrichment opportunities are not always taken. If you allow a student to take the easy way out, sometimes they'll do that. And the ones who we really need to stay are the ones who are going to fight and try to sneak out. And we see them sneak out the side doors. So we're trying to curb that by saying, hey, let's be consistent. Let's keep all of our students here until 246. We'll be creative with the timing and when we have this enrichment and enhancement opportunity, and we'll do it in the middle of the day. That way no one feels like they're being kept back as punishment. Everyone views it as an opportunity for each of them to pursue extra help wherever that is that they need that. And now I want to turn it over to the experts here who have firsthand knowledge of working with many of these students and this experience that we've had over the last 13 years. Mark, go ahead. You go, man.
Thank you. So, thank you for listening to this opportunity for Westmont High School. So one of the things that I have looked at as a teacher is I have tried to keep these kids, and one of the things we do at Westmont High School is we ask kids to do extraordinary things. We ask kids who probably would not take an AP class in other high schools, we encourage them and push them into these classes. Because of that, they may need some extra time to work. So that 50 minutes is not enough for them because we're asking them to do extraordinary things. And the reason why we get kids to do that is because we build great relationship with kids. asking them to stay after school when they're in an AP class and all of their friends are going home, that's a strain to that relationship. And when you look in their eyes when they come in at 1:46 and they can look out my window and they see all their friends leaving and going to Wendy's, it's difficult. And you know it's going to be a grind to work them for another 45 minutes while they're thinking about their friends at Wendy's. It also gives an opportunity for during the school day, if it's built in the school day, every student is there. They have that peer mediation that they can work with. So it's not just us teachers holding them back. They can then work, if they're in an AP Calc class, they can get together with 5 of their friends and start working on their homework at night. It also allows the teachers to have their data team meetings during the day if they do not have Common Plan. It gives us some consistency for Monday through Friday, that they know they're just going to be leaving at 2:46. There's no variation in that. So they know if they're going to make a doctor's appointment. At 1:46, every doctor must be booked solid in Westmont, because the stack of my daughter, my son has a doctor's appointment at 2 o'clock. Is amazing. So this gives us some consistency. It's always going to be at 2:46, Monday through Friday. This flex period would be on Tuesday and Thursday. So we're holding it 2 days a week. So sometimes it'll be remediation for students, but it'll also give them a chance for enrichment. If they're struggling in both English and math or history or art, it gives them the 2 days to be flexible.
Hello, I'm Anna. Nice to see all of you. Thank you for listening to this riveting presentation. I echo a lot of Mark's statements about students, leaving early and thinking that like it's their right to leave early. I'm like, yeah, but you have an F. Can you stay? Like these kind of conversations we're having, and we're really lucky because we have excellent kids. So it's easy for us to talk to them and explain, with our relationship why they should stay. But there are times where I have to use some of my time to be calling them on their phones and, hey, I need you back here right now. And then they're like, oh, okay, I'm coming. So we're trying to curb that. And since we've practiced some of the flex time already, we've seen a change in their demeanor with the flex period that's embedded into the day instead of at the end of the day. So everyone's staying, so it's not like anyone's being punished, and they're going to their flex period, and there's no like disdain. Like they're okay to go there. One thing that is great is we've changed the culture for trying to increase test scores and increase proficiency by having this time period for them. So the culture has changed. The kids are not pushing back. It's been 12 or 13 years of PLC schedule and trying to help them during that time period. So our juniors, they know it's like their time to shine, and after practice tests, they come and tell us like, oh, look how good I did, or whatever. So they get very into it. So we like that, but we don't want them to feel like it's a punishment. So some benefits that we expect are increased student engagement and academic support, a greater schedule consistency, and enhanced teacher collaboration by embedding that common plan time and the flex time to make students a priority and make the looking at the data a priority. One thing that we've noticed is kids will kind of follow up with us to ask to be put into a specific flex activity so that they're kind of taking a little more ownership of getting themselves out of an F hole. I have a D or an F, and instead of I'm staying on Wednesday and I hate this, this is a way for us to kind of attack that right then and there. So we've seen a little bit of a change in the F list too. I've had less kids failing for a longer period of time because of the flex schedule. And then the implementation next steps. So communicating it with students, parents, and staff, and making sure everyone understands that we are simply just switching to a Monday through Friday normal sort of 2:46 dismissal. And then what we do in that time doesn't affect us as much because we are there regardless of the time period, but it does help the students, and it gives them a chance to increase some of their scores too. I mean, we have students now who wouldn't normally stay on a Wednesday because their scores are pretty high, but maybe they want them higher. And so we can provide enrichment and extension activities too. Teacher support, providing guidance and support to ensure there's a smooth transition. Mark and Kevin and I as a team and most of our building have done a lot of background work trying to make sure that this flex schedule works and that everybody's able to use it. it's been getting easier, and then aligning with our mission to provide the best possible learning environment. The number one reason we do things is for kids. So it's, if we continued with the same schedule, you know, to make sure our teams can meet and all that stuff, we've found ways around that now, and this is what's best for kids. So we're going to end there. If you guys have questions, please feel free to ask.
Will,
And just to clarify, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays for about 40 minutes,
Yeah.
right? It's after lunch,
42
those 2 days, and we would have just a regular school day on Wednesdays.
Will all the teachers have PLC time? Will they all make it in?
Yeah, so
at that time?
we
I
will
think that's
build
important.
in the master schedule, common plan, and if there's a department that can't have common plan for whatever reason that might be, they'll be able to meet on those, one of the 2 flex days, because we're gonna have 2 adults supervising groups of students, so they'll be flexible in terms of being, one person can leave to go do a PLC meeting.
Great.
We're really good at PLCs. We just won the Ambassador Award.
I had the same question as Kevin, because I was just like, oh, I wouldn't want to be the department that doesn't have common plan time and then is losing that PLC time, but it sounds like you guys figured that out.
yeah, that's the reason
yeah.
for the 2 days and
Makes
2
sense.
people in a homeroom.
Yeah.
So it gives you flexibility.
I love it. I mean, I love this. In the year 2025, there are enough obstacles to student attendance and keeping kids in the building, so love it. They need
It
to be there.
removes one of those obstacles that we have
100%.
right now, working with students who struggle or, you know, that should stay because it's in their best
Mm-hmm.
interest. You know, now we're, instead of hitting 25 to 35% of our students, we're going to be able to get 100% of them this extra help that they can all use.
Yeah.
And we know this time is valuable, and we've seen the changes that occur. I mean, last year, for instance, our SAT scores, like, we started at like 28% proficient for English, and we ended at 58. Like, we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have that time, and the state hovers around 30. So we have to have the time, you know, sheltered, which I think Jack has done such a great job at showing us how to do that and creating this vision for us so we know how important it is. But we have to also do now is take it to the next level. Like, we've, you know, been able to work with this schedule, but this is what's best for kids.
I think that the other thing it does is it gives the kid the choice of what they need to work on, and they advocate for themselves. So, you know, their schedule's pretty laid out, you know, it's a bell rings and they know where they have to go. This gives them 40 minutes of opportunities that they get to choose what they need to work on during that time.
And we've spent the last year and a half or so trying to work through some of the kinks before we brought it to your attention, just to make sure that we knew exactly what was going to work best for us, and to try to make sure that we have a very consistent practice that we wanted to lay out here today.
So,
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
I kind of have 2, hope I remember. So as far as that, where you had kids that, and I have 2 high schoolers, so a little bit familiar, don't have the schedule down, but this part where you have like enhancement, or for, say, for the ACT now, you had a limited number of students that were attending those enrichment. Like, will you have the staff to necessarily increase that amount? Because that amount will go up because all the kids are staying now.
Yeah. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create more opportunities for the enrichment and extension. We know now that we've been doing PLC work for so long, that 4th question, like, that's where we live now, or we're living there. We're always in 2 and 3, we're always doing the work, but we need to be getting better at creating opportunities for students who are already high performing. You know, we're really lucky in this district that we have that, but we have to make sure that we're challenging them too. So as it stands, it's been like, here's some extra ACT work that you could always pull if you want. We'll keep it in classrooms, you can work on it on your own, whatever you want to do, whatever works for you. They're also free to attend any ACT intervention. If they feel like they're struggling with sentence structure, they know they can come to me, or, you know, to Mr. Palmer. They know they can go, you know, to a room to get help, but when it's embedded in the day, they're going to do that without, like, oh, I should probably stay for an hour, and like, you know, I'm not sure if I want to stay, that kind of thing. Math and English and science for this year for ACT, we've pulled in many students, even our students who are kind of in that lower green area, because we don't want their scores to slide back. Red, yellow, we bring in all of our students on the continuum because we want to make sure that we're targeting intervention, like our targeted interventions are for those specific needs that they have. So all of our groups are made by the question types that they miss. So that's
You're
still
able
true
to
for our
handle,
high performing.
well, you may have 30 students now, that it will be 60 coming in for this now, or 80.
Yeah, and so we do have the staff for that, like we can, split up our kids into different teams and different groups, and we consider pacing too. Some of our students who need a lot more help, we're working more on skills and less on test prep. That might be less students than some of the higher performing groups.
So for example, Anna and I share the same homeroom. If it's an English day and they're going to do a big intervention, all the English teachers don't have a homeroom to watch. They go into a separate classroom and they pull all the juniors. So they can have 5 of their teachers for all of the juniors, and then I'm back at the homeroom supervising, but I can still pull, like if I have a kid struggling in pre-calc, I can still pull that kid and have him report to Anna's classroom where our homeroom is at. So I can work with them while supervising them. So we have about 20 activities, 20 to 24 activities a week that kids can choose from. ACT, we have an intervention schedule, so we have ACT kind of takes precedence, AP, anybody failing a class automatically that takes precedence, and we prioritize those activities. So if you're failing a class, that's the top priority. You have to go and get that done.
And then my other part of it, another question I have is for students that, I don't know how they, again, I don't have the schedules down, I don't know how they use their time, but the students that are going to TCD, for example, or does this affect them and how they schedule?
This is going to happen after lunch every day, so the kids from TCD will be back prior to lunch.
Okay.
So they'll still be able to participate and pick and choose which classroom they'd like to go to.
And the schedules, like it's kind of hard, it's a little abstract to think about, but Flex has like an online app and the kids have been using it and they're so much better at technology than most of us, so they've really figured it out. And they might say like, I need help with this or that, can you show me how to get in there? And then we just make sure we have an activity where we can invite those students. So all of that's getting easier.
Sorry.
No, my question was answered, thanks.
I have a question kind of along the same lines. So for like students, since it is freshman through senior year, what does that look like for our freshmen and sophomores? And maybe not even so much the sophomores and juniors, since it's like a lot of ACT prep, AP intervention, things like that. What does it look like for our freshmen? And then what does it look like for our seniors, because they are in graduation mode? And what does it look like for those who are not pursuing any type of academic, activity like college or anything like that, if they're pursuing a trade or going into the military or the work industry for these periods, what activities does that look like for those students?
So there's a lot of autonomy here for student choice.
Okay.
And they get a chance to, as freshmen and sophomores, as you might have mentioned, they're going to have a case or a course load of 5, 6, 7 classes that they're going to have where they can go and work with their teachers, where they might be getting a C in their class, or they might be having a project come up. So they can go and pick and choose on a weekly basis where they want to go to get the extra help to enhance, if they're struggling in terms of finishing up a project and they just want to have a conversation with the teacher in terms of what the expectations are, a one-on-one conversation, they can choose to go and do that at that time. So that's for our freshmen and sophomores. But, with our seniors, there's also flexibility when it comes to social emotional, where they can meet with counselors, they can meet with the media center, social workers, any of this stuff that might be beneficial for them during that time. But we are going to look at using our data team to be able to identify the students who are struggling and trying to pinpoint exactly where they need to go prior to Tuesdays and Thursdays flex time. And then for college, for our seniors, that's really where we want to make sure that they have a very specific itinerary when it comes to the Tuesdays and Thursdays with Flex, so that they're on track for graduation, that they are finishing up their college apps, that they are doing FAFSA and things like that, where they have to do this work that right now they don't have that extra time, so we have to constantly remind them that they have to turn it in by a certain date. So this time is really student-driven. It's student-centered, it's student-driven, and sometimes there has to be some oversight by the adults in the building to make sure that students aren't choosing to just go to a teacher that they really connect with when they might be getting a C, D, or an F. So we want to make sure that we're balancing giving autonomy, but with some oversight if needed.
And just one quick thing I wanted to address. I have had students recently who are in the TCD programs. I know you were talking about the trades, and we were kind of trying to talk about how to make the ACT meaningful, since a lot of them are like, I'm not going to college. But we did have a conversation. I've had this with a couple of kids, HVAC, electricians. There's still going to be a test that they need to take to be certified. So they're seeing a lot of they're seeing the productivity of like, okay, I'm going to come to this ACT session, maybe not so that I'm doing so amazing in the ACT, but because the test I have to take to become an electrician is going to be a lot of these same things. A lot of those kinds of tests are still Common Core driven. So we're trying to make that meaningful for them and not just, oh, here, we're going to make you do this because we want you to do well on a test. So I heard what you were saying, and that's been kind of a conversation I've been having with some of our juniors lately.
Okay.
Can I add to that? Because Anna, I was thinking the exact same thing. NAS has been an ACT school for several years, and we use the ACT College and Career Readiness standards. And I think it's important to just understand that wherever a student goes after high school, those skills, if you look at them, like, not that I'm suggesting everybody read the ACT College Career Readiness, I think they're riveting. But if you read them, you'll see how that skill right there will help you if you go into the military and have to do XYZ. This skill right here will definitely help you if you go into the trades. And so they're fundamental, basic reading, writing, math skills that you need wherever you're going to go. And so I just think that flex time is going to help every student no matter what their path is. And I love the SEL piece as well, the college prep piece. So it's about educating all of our students wherever they're at.
It really is going to help them build their confidence, in terms of staying on track for the things that they need to stay on track with. They don't become overwhelmed when it gets to the end of the semester, and they really build a strong relationship with their teachers in terms of the classes that they need the most help in.
Yeah, because sometimes if they miss the Wednesdays right now, then I'm going to get them at lunch. So this will make that a little easier too. Oh, let's go do, ACT prep at lunch because you missed yesterday. So, right?
Can you guys talk a little bit about the impact on families that's expected? This is a change, right? And these are our oldest students in the district, many of them maybe helping out at home for their youngers, right? Can you guys just talk about that a little bit? And then also on the communication side of it, if there are any plans to connect with our families that have IEPs and 504s to those families are going to need a little bit more specific direction, probably, right?
Well, I've been doing this for the last 12 years, and I've worked with all the students who have needed to leave or wanted to leave for various reasons, and that has not necessarily been the case in terms of, hey, I have to go home and take care of my younger sibling. It's happened, but it's not the one that's most consistent. The one that's most consistent are the doctor's notes, where we've heard that doctor's appointments are scheduled at the 2 o'clock time every Wednesday. But part of the communication is we want to get ahead of it. So, after the board makes a decision, that's when we want to get together to figure out how we can best communicate this with our community. And at that point, we'd like to, invite them to call us, to meet with us if they have any concerns, and what kind of supports that they need for themselves as well as for their child who's at the high school. But this will be a little bit of a change, but I also think that this is very student-centered and it's student-driven to help our students be more successful and to gain the confidence that they need to have those skills that we were talking about, to be critical thinkers and to be determined to be successful and finish what they start.
And as for our special education students, I hear what you're saying, but they are a huge part of this too, and this is going to benefit them with the extra time that's not as structured, so there's not as much pressure, and they get a little more of their extended time too. Sometimes right now when we give a practice ACT test, our special education students can't even finish because they have extended time, and we don't want them to miss class, so then we don't get enough information. This will also help us give them that time that they need and they deserve to finish a test and get the data that we need to have to help them. So.
And they'll also have the opportunity to meet with the resource teachers. So for special ed, it gives an additional opportunity on Tuesdays and Thursdays to specifically meet with whether it's a social worker, a counselor, or their case manager to get the extra support that they need.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. There are no other questions or comments. Okay, thank you.
One last comment. This was generated by our teachers, not by myself or by Kevin. So it came from the teachers who have the highest trust rating, student-teacher trust rating in the state of Illinois, and that says something. And so I'm very proud of it. And, one of the most overachieving schools in the state. But that's the thing I really love. They're not resting on their laurels, they're looking at ways to get better. And they'll track the data, as we always do, to see the impact it has. And if it's not working, we'll fine-tune, they will fine-tune until it's excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
So,
okay?
we will be voting, so we'll have a chance to discuss this more at our next meeting, but in the April 22nd meeting, we'll be voting on this. All right, we'll move to our financial presentation.
You can stand if you wish, or you can go.
What do you prefer?
Either ways. Oh.
Either way, yes.
Take the easy route if I could.
Good evening. Yes.
Dr. John Gibson. I am working here for a period of time since January as an interim business manager. Retired. This is my second year of retirement after 25 years as a chief school business official and another 15 years in the private sector as an accountant in primarily manufacturing areas. It'll just take me a second to get to my presentation. I did want to give you guys something to look at because
go ahead,
these are numbers, and numbers are boring enough to hear. You listen to them without something to see, it'll put you to sleep. I do want to, with apologies to the gentleman who just stepped out, this will not be 2 hours, but certainly this is information I think is worthwhile. I do have a fairly brief presentation because I don't know exactly what you have tonight. The academic information is significantly important. So I'll have other opportunities to come out and talk to you more, give you more details if you like, and also if you've got finance committee meetings, we can get more into the weeds than I am going to do tonight. I just want to start. This is just a monthly financial review. I know you get these at least since October. I think you got them pretty regularly before then. So I'm going to just attempt to give you an update on it. You can ask questions as I go through if you like. I'll answer what I can. I know I can't answer a lot because, again, my time has been limited. There's a lot that I wish I knew about the school district. But I think hopefully enough I know that I can get you through good answers to the questions that you would have tonight. First of all, I want to start out, again, this is the monthly presentation. You missed your homage. I gave you homage to your desire to have a 2-hour presentation. You're not getting that tonight. but it's worthwhile to have that sort of information. I think you're right about that. I agree with you. I'm not speaking for the board, but I agree with that. More financial information. Let us talk all the time. Anyway, I want to start out by talking about revenues. This is for through the month of March 2025. So through this time period, revenues have been running slightly behind projections. What we try to do, because in fund accounting, you don't necessarily have monthly revenue on a monthly revenue coming in on a monthly basis consistently. So we kind of estimate when money are going to come in. So we project each month what we think the revenue are going to be for the month and also for year to date. So our projections, we have the revenues running slightly behind where we thought they might be, but again, that's just our best guess. But we also anticipate the way, and you'll see in a couple of slides from here, the cycle of property taxes as they're received kind of drive the way that we go in terms of having money in the bank, spend, and then get some more money in the bank. But we'll see that slide in a minute. State and federal revenues have been on target with projections. I do want to point you to these dials that you're used to seeing at the top. There's the red, yellow, green, and blue dial. This gives you an idea of, on a percentage basis, where you are. This is revenues, like I said. So just skipping to the yellow dial, that's the actual year-to-date revenues received. So you can see that dial's like above 50%. So we've received about 50% of revenues. At this time in the year, we'd like to see that a little bit higher. But for right now, that's where we are on an actual basis. The next two dials, the green and the blue, kind of split it up between the state and the local revenues. Local sources are property taxes, fees, cafeteria services, revenues for that, and other miscellaneous revenues. And your state sources, and also federal, are going to be your grants, basically money coming from the state and federal for grant funding. But you can see that the green and the yellow are pretty much halfway. As I said, they're about the same. And then the state federal sources are almost a quarter, 3/4 received so far, and that's pretty good. That's good. They're just a little bit above projections, which we like to see. I'm not going to go through the other graphs unless you'd like to. I know you see those, but I want you to focus just on the revenue coming in. And also just to mention, I think it's a good piece of information that the primary sources of revenue, school districts, local property taxes, state funding, and federal grants. In this school district, I believe you're primarily focusing on your property taxes. You do receive some federal and state funding, but not as significantly as some other school districts with a lower level of property taxes. All right, moving on. We want to talk about the expenditures now. And obviously, this is money going out, and so through the same time period, they're running slightly behind as well, which you say, well, that's better. Well, not necessarily, because we want to make sure we're keeping up with all the expenditures that we have, that we were expecting, because we had a budget. We expected to have our spending to be a certain area. That just means our guess is a little bit off. We will see, as you can, I'll break out the dials here, the yellow, the green, and the blue. You can see the one on the far right, the blue is almost fully spent. It's almost at 90% spent. But then the green is only at about 65, I think, 64%. And then your yellow, all of them year to date is 70% spent. So again, it's just a little bit behind, but you can see the variations in what we call other objects, which is the blue, and then our salaries and benefits. There's a big difference in the spending, the timing of them. So that's something that I'm just evaluating to make sure that we're on top of any things that we need to make you aware of, any adjustments that we need to make. And again, being new, I'm seeing some things I'm starting to dive into. Nothing bad, but things that I just want to make sure we can explain to you as a board to say, we're right on time with spending as we expect, or we're behind, and to give you an idea of what the end of the year is going to look like. And I'll have that for you in a couple slides after this. But basically, our spending for the year, typically we stop spending, we cut off our non-salary, non-benefit spending, and non-grant spending as well earlier in the year. And that limits the amount of spending that we're going to have. So that's one of the reasons that we'll be behind projections, but also we'll continue our grant spending because grants are obligated, I should say, through all the school year, and also maintenance has to continue. We've got to continue maintaining the building. Our salaries and benefits, just for information, you know this, are 85% of all our expenditures. So salaries and benefits, as you can imagine, we need teachers to teach students, and it's really a people-driven outfit. Next slide I'll go to is about the fund balance. Again, this is one of the areas that the school board will typically try to, and I think should key on from my experience as a school business official in other school districts. This gives you the higher level picture of what is going on, the health of the school district. So this is a graph. I don't think you were getting this one before. This might be a new one to you. No? Okay, so this is the new one. I thought this was a good one to pull out. I used to show this one. It gives you a visual, a really, really quick snapshot of the trends of your fund balances. There's two lines. One is for last year. One is for the red dotted line is last year. The blue solid line is for this year. But you can see kind of how they parallel each other for the most part. And you can see that they are, in fact, showing that big uptick of in September. You can see that big uptick there, and then money gets spent down, and then by the end of the year, in May, late May and June, you get your property taxes again. So those are your property taxes when they come in. They come in big chunks. You also receive during each month some revenue from state and federal monies, but those don't have as big of an impact on your bottom line, so you don't see those jumping up as much. So over the 2 years that you're seeing here, we started out back in 2023, June of 2023, July 2023, with about 12.8 million. And by the end of this fiscal year, we'll be at 13.8 million. So just kind of looking at it over a 2-year stretch, you can see that, increase over time, despite the up and down that you see from the property taxes and the spending. Again, this is a brief presentation, not giving you a lot of detail on that. But I do want to mention that monitoring these on a monthly basis, which is what we do, is essential for understanding our cash flow management, keeping track of the district operations financially, and also estimating for the year end as well. So that's something, again, coming up in the next slide. We're going to this month-ending fund balance as of March. So just for the month of March, our beginning balance as of February 28th, you can see in the chart, and I hope that's not too small, I couldn't make these that much bigger, the beginning fund balance was 11.6 million at the beginning of March, and we're ending at 9.3 million. Again, you're not going to see a ton of revenue coming in. We're mostly spending it down until we get to property taxes. The fund balance is, as I said, 9.3, and our monthly expenditures were 2.77 million. If you extrapolate that out for the rest of the year, that'll get you to about $9 million, because that's almost $3 million per month. So that's pretty tight if we were not getting any more funds in. But we expect that we're going to get another $1 million of grant revenues in, and we're also going to get more than $10 million coming in from our property taxes, the second installment. That'll come in before that money runs out. So that's not a concern that we have. It's something that we expect. Again, we have projections on what this should look like, and those are pretty much coming to fruition, except, like I said, the revenues are running a little behind, not significantly, and expenditures are also running behind. Finally, in our last slide, we've got the year-to-date fund balance, which is now July 1 through March 31st. So the beginning at the start of this fiscal year, July 1, 2024, was at 14.8 million. And now we're going to be, we are rather, at the end of March, down to 9.3. And that's the same, you can see that as well on that graph. When you looked at that chart, I didn't stop to show you the numbers, but it's the same number on the way. So it's on the way to the path going to the end of the fiscal year. We are expecting that, again, the property taxes and revenues will increase this operating fund balance over the next few months. And one thing I didn't mention, you can see at the top of this particular chart, operating funds only. So what we're working with on these charts are only those 5 funds that you see on the left: the education fund, the operation maintenance fund, transportation fund, IMRF fund, and tort fund. So they each have specific purposes. Those monies are designed to be used within those funds. If you move them around, you have to have the board give approval to it. It has to be board action, and then moving forward from there. Before I move on from the numbers, well, I'll go ahead and finish, and then if you have any questions. Just generally speaking, and I know you're aware of this, that the school board typically, more school boards look at 25% of annual expenditures as a level of fund balances that they like to maintain. And so that helps to allow for any unanticipated expenditures. You can't run with a 0 fund balance. And you've got to have the ability to provide services without financial strain. Finally, recommendations, and this is what we do, but honestly, I did this, I had this help me put this together in the AI, with an AI thing, so I said, well, this is pretty good that it wrote at the end, so I'll keep this one on here. So it says to enhance financial health, it's recommended to regularly review expenditure patterns, which is what, again, we do as school business officials and as a school board. We identify potential savings so we can find ways to be efficient about how we use the money, and then we can adjust our revenue forecast. As we see how money's coming in, we can adjust that. One of the things I would love to do and haven't, because of my time here, been able to move around and see if the revenue pattern has changed, but I'll be looking at that over the next couple of months, and as well as expenditures. And then also we want to be able to support long-term objectives by knowing what money we have coming. Another thing I'm sure we'll talk about eventually in the next, short period of time is projections as well. So you may have had those in progress. I have done those with the same organization that works on the slide. They produce a program to produce those slides that you look at. I've worked with them together and put together a projection as well. So at some point at a finance committee meeting, we can go through that. That's all I have in the slides. I know I've maybe gone through kind of quickly, but if you have any questions, I'll do what I can with those.
I have a quick question that I have a feeling is going to be better for a finance committee meeting, but just wondering if there's been any communication to the district or discussion about the potential impact of federal grant funding in the future, and if we see any of that going away, are we able to absorb what we're getting, like if that happens? Just a big if right now, but yeah. I think a question that's weighing on a lot of school districts' minds.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I had a conversation with someone recently, one of my other clients, and there's some money that her organization, her nonprofit, is experiencing. There's a grant that's administered through Lurie Children's Hospital, and they work through them as a contractor. But those funds, there was a request from the feds to pull back. These were based on the COVID funds, the ESSER monies, the monies from COVID. And they wanted to pull back some of these funds at the federal level, so her grant could be impacted by that. I haven't heard of that happening with any of the grants that we are dealing with, and our ESSER money has been, as of September 30th, unless you had an extension that you went through ISB, most grants are done. Most of us are done with those. There may be a few, though, that haven't spent those funds down that could be at risk. Specifically here, what I don't know, and I would love to know, I should know, but I don't know right now because I haven't done the work, is what your percentage is of federal grants. Typically, it's about 10% or less for schools that are not heavily reliant on federal grants. So I would guess that it's not going to be as significant of an impact to you as if you were to lose like general state, some evidence-based funding or something like that, state grants. State grants are more important to you, I think, at this time than the feds. Again, I need to do more analysis to give you a more concrete answer on that.
And you had a slide, I think one back, that says what is a healthy fund balance goals. And just want to ask and reiterate, this is not something we just hold ourselves to. The state looks at this also as a criteria for financially sound district, and even to the point that they become involved if there's not a healthy fund balance. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And the state actually, they measure you at 33% for, I think it's part of your budgeting process. And yeah, you'll have to do a, but you won't be penalized for it at that point in time. You have to do a deficit reduction plan or some other plan that they would, yeah, if you were, especially if you're running deficits, but yeah, if you're not going to be, you have to meet a certain measure in, oh, why can't I remember the name of it? But there's a formula that's, there's 4 categories that the state looks at, and they're about whether you have a deficit or surplus, the amount of debt that you had, 2 different measures for that, and also the amount of cash that you have on hand. The closer you are to 100% of cash, the better, or 180 days, the better. So it's those 4 categories, the financial profile ranking. So yeah, if you're not healthy with regards to that, and you're not showing significant fund balances, yeah, state oversight panels, but that's not in your.
So it's not just something we hold ourselves to. Like since I've been a board member, there are always questions. Ran 2 campaigns and people ask like, oh, how's your financial status, or are you healthy, are you doing this well? So the state is looking at you, the audit is looking at us, but it's something that we've held ourselves to, and the state has looked at us and
Absolutely.
determined that we have a healthy fund balance at this time.
That's correct, yes.
Is that effectively a low balance target?
Sorry, we can't, it's not an open meeting, but yeah. I don't know, but yes. Yes. But, yes.
I did have a question that was similar to that. So per our board policies, we have an unrestricted fund balance at 40% of the operating reserves. So, which means that we have to hold 40%, is that correct? Per board policy. I know it's 25%
Yes.
is the expectation, but our board policy calls out 40%.
Oh, yes, okay.
So that's 40% of our yearly operating revenue, which is about where we're at, roughly. So what happens if we go below that? And what happens, like, what's the impact if we spend down our fund balance significantly?
Interesting question. So if you have a board policy and I allow your board, the fund balances to go below the board policy, then you have an issue with me.
Okay.
So,
that's a very straightforward answer. I appreciate it.
and to be honest with you, if I were physically your employee on payroll, I would tell you the same thing. It's my responsibility to maintain board policy. If a school district runs out of money, again, the aim of the state is to avoid that. And they would have an oversight panel. They would first have someone come to talk to you from the school finance department of State Board of Education. Would have someone reach out to you, and they would help you to work on your financial projections and look at your budget, and give you some support and to avoid that situation. There's very few school districts, I haven't heard of any that have, gone bankrupt. I haven't heard of any, zero. But certainly there have been plenty of schools, I shouldn't say plenty, there have been some schools that have been on state state oversight, where they actually had an oversight panel of people. I was actually asked to be on one before, which I couldn't do, for a rather large school district. Significantly larger than this one, but they were having financial management problems.
So like an oversight panel, like folks not in the community?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the state would, State Board of Education, I think it's school finance, I forget the exact name, the department would assign some people from outside the school district, people like myself, business officials, working typically, maybe retired. I think there was a township treasurer. We have township treasurer, we have active township treasurers in Cook County that the school districts work with. So yeah, they bring in people from that were not employees. You might live in the district area, but you wouldn't be employees or have a tie to the school district.
But they would be making more financial decisions about the district?
Yeah, it's, I haven't seen one work. I could say that, yeah, they do. They're, basically, all spending has to be approved by that oversight panel. It still has everything, all the processes still work, the board is still active, and you still vote on everything, but it has to go through that oversight panel for approval first. Yeah. Yeah, and there's schools that have come out of it. It's done a good job of helping schools turn around. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? That was kind of a hard one, because I haven't really reached back on that one. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just, we thank Mr. Gibson for this, because we are at a state that you are interim, so you're helping our district out while we have someone that's on leave that's not able to be present. So I thank you for putting in time to find answers to our questions and enable our district to continue to do business. So.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you, John. You've been such an asset during this time, and the staff that works with you admires you deeply, as do I, and your expertise and your knowledge is very valuable to our district, so thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Because this was added, can it be retroactively added onto the agenda in board docs?
No.
Okay.
So, but we will have updated, the presentations will be added. So that
So the
will be
presentations will be in board docs?
Yes. No. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
We cannot add there was nowhere to add it in board docs now because it wasn't part of the meeting.
Okay.
There's no agenda item for it. We'll put it on the website on our board page. I'll make a link tomorrow and put it on there of his presentation and the slides.
Okay, thank you. Normally that is where it would be. So.
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. I want to state that. So next, our discussion will go to the referendum discussion.
Next steps. Where do we go from here?
So one of our, before we get into details, I don't know if you have this, but one of the mentioned first steps is our committee meeting, where it is not as formal as this one, that our community that we invite over and over and continue to invite to be a part of that process and discussion about next steps and recommendations of where we go, where does the districts go from here? And even more than that, discussing the needs that didn't disappear with a vote or no vote, that are still present, that we have to decide how do we move these projects. The needs of the districts is still here, and this board and the district have to decide how do we answer that and find solutions, be it alternative or whatever you want to put, adjective you want to put in front of that, but we need the solutions and we need the plan. So
you said PRs on the 22nd. When's the next finance facilities?
I'm sorry. Is that we're planning that? Is the next finance one the schedule?
Well, so we would have to look back at our board calendar because we did set up our so you've got the different committees, right? You've got the finance committee, which would typically meet 4 times a year, the standard finance committee that would typically meet 4 times a year, the standard standing facilities committee that would combine with the finance committee a couple times a year. And those were already scheduled. and we're in budget review time. But then the ad hoc committee, so the ad hoc committee of like the facilities work for all the town halls and all of that stuff was not scheduled out for the year because that was a temporary board committee. So if we go back, and look at we should go back and look at our board calendar for where the original finance meetings, because those were all scheduled for the year.
So do we want to keep combining them? I think we should. Finance and facilities.
Because they're hand in hand.
They go hand in hand, but they are two separate committees, and they do like the finance committee does a different thing during budget season. So the challenge with combining them is they get
time. Yeah.
If we want to like try to continue to have our committee meetings at 5:30 before our board meetings, like we have been doing, which personally I think has been pretty successful this year, or more successful than previous years. So winning. If we want to continue doing that, then it's probably a better move to have the meetings more often as opposed to combining them, because combining the finance and facilities then turns into a meeting that is longer than we're capable of having prior to our board meeting. So potentially.
And before this year, we did have some longer finance facility meetings that were longer, but again, trying to juggle the calendar, just honoring the time that, board members are present for meetings and then committee meetings, and then also letting our community know and to have that involvement, kind of considering all that. But a lot of this was the ad hoc committee that was taking part of that facilities committee meeting place. So.
When do we create our calendar for next year again?
That is also
next
week, next 2 weeks.
Okay.
So all of this as we're changing, because we're setting meeting times, a meeting schedule for next year. So it ends, right now our schedule, if you look at it, for the board members, board meetings themselves ends in June. So we set those meetings also and then start to set.
I think that's worth a fuller conversation just about like our format for committee meetings and how we can integrate some more of those fuller ones that will combine, that might be longer, and looking at what kinds of plans we need to put in place for next year. So yeah, that's all. I just think a fuller instead of like kind of just mirroring what we did last year and doing the same.
We need to grow. We've grown every year. We've adjusted it. We've learned something every year, and we need to keep tweaking and adjusting so that it works for as many as possible. And we need to also,
And so getting back to the referendum, just with every other election, I think when we have them and if we look it up as it reads, it says unofficial. So just stating what usually happens, the time when they do make it official is usually
The 22nd.
3 weeks after the election, so.
It'll be the day of our next board meeting.
Yeah.
So we should have that. And is it usually it's before our board meeting, usually about noon, 1, we have. Fingers crossed, yes. All elections certified and made official.
And they'll send it to us.
But as it stands right now, as far as the referendum is concerned, is that we have a majority of no votes. So unofficially, the referendum did not pass. So again, speaking to our board and then our community and committees to start to devise a plan and speaking candidly of what we need to do to solve these problems again. So this is all coming around the same time as our budget, what we can do with our budget, reiterating that our budget does not allow for new construction or capital projects. That is for, as we've seen before, usually for running our districts with salaries is the highest expenditure that we have for our teachers and our administrators. So money we have in the budget will not fund new construction. So
what
or
I'm-
even,
Or even massive
say that word,
capital improvements.
capital improvements.
Yes, so what I'm hearing is what I'm, have been thinking since all of this happened, is that, we need a referendum to pass no matter what at some point, because we quite literally can't afford, even if we stay in our exact locations. We know that, we need to continue to educate people on that. So to me, it's just what's the next step to figure out how we're going to use referendum money, because Dr. Gibson just explained that, that's where we get our money from. But Jack, I think the district is already looking at some of the things, because I also want to reassure people who might be feeling afraid that we are taking some steps to take care of some immediate facilities concerns. Can you talk a little bit about that?
We are holding a meeting this Friday with our construction manager, with board members, with Dr. Gibson, with Joe, and prioritizing the things that are most important to address. We're going to look at life safety monies to possibly address those. So we're in process.
Okay.
We do need a finance and facility committee to get direction on what the next steps will be. But we are already preemptively taking a look at what are the most important things that can no longer wait. And it would not have been appropriate to take any action on those until we had an outcome from the referendum. The second thing is, where can we use life safety money that is available to address those priorities? And we're holding that meeting so we can present something to the board and to the Finance and Facilities Committee.
I think also finding a way for the PR committee to work more closely with finance and facilities, because I think that there are some areas, clearly there's, from my perspective, a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about certain things, and so I think we can do better about making those connections, because it's not enough, I think, to just do those immediate, we have to fix. That's great. That's not enough. And so, but we need to get more people to understand that.
And I think, with this, we have gathered attention from our community about getting information. There's something we talked about in a lot of these committee meetings and town halls, is that there's always education to be done to combat that misinformation. I've seen that there's a community member things that have been stated about how a budget works and what can be done. And so I kind of take that on as there's still an opportunity to inform and educate.
Agreed.
Because, again, to find answers or so-called better solutions, you have to be educated on what can be done and how things are done in our state. You just can't throw it out there and hope it's true. There are things that are facts, and there are things that we have to work, and constraints that we have. But we still have to, gather that up, and all the people who have great expertise and time and willingness to find those answers. So,
well, and to the point on constraints, right? We can't. There are things we cannot do quickly, right? We can't just hold a board meeting overnight. We're not allowed to do that, right? For a lot of reasons. But I think one thing that I learned in the last year or so on this is the town hall process, right? Even though I don't know if this district held town halls before us, but just that process of having a town hall, I think, is something that we should look at doing yearly, regardless of whatever's going on, is just having a regularly scheduled town hall meeting where, and we found out that, 2 board members are allowed to speak at a town hall meeting. It can't be more than 2 board members, but, so just knowing that those details, right? Feels like we're constantly learning new things. But that piece, and then I think also, to the piece of the financial piece, something separate from that. That is also this is our regularly scheduled, situation. And I know we've all been very focused on getting the job done and doing taking care of our kids and making sure that they're growing, and the PLC work and all of it. And I know we've been super focused on that in the last couple of years. I do feel like our focus has fallen off of the regular job of communicating what a school district does for the community, right? What this school district does for this area, what the tax dollars go to. I do think we have fallen off on that messaging. And I think we need to think about, like, if there's anything that we've learned in the last couple of years from scheduling committee meetings and just getting them on the calendar, it's just that if you just plan it, right? If you put it on the calendar, it's going to happen. But if you don't put it on the calendar, there will always be something in the way of it. There will always be something that will fall in the way of it. So just getting to the point of, here's our yearly calendar, here's our board meetings, here's when we have whatever town hall we want to do here, here's when we have our state of the district, right? And like, they just live there, and it becomes this legacy, right? That can live on, that this is something that the school district does, and here's when our yearly, flyer goes out, and here's when our 3 times a year postcards reminding people to, come out to committee meeting, whatever that may be, right? Reminding people that it's football season and seniors get in free, right? Like, just having that scheduled.
It comes
right?
back to the PR, right? Like, I think totally.
Gets measured, gets managed.
Yeah, and I think, like, transparency, we're transparent. Things are available, but, like, board docs is not awesome. Does anybody love board docs interface? I don't personally, but, like, can we do, like, what else could we do? So I like your idea of, sending things out and making things more user-friendly and accessible, and so.
But it just has to
brainstorming for PR.
It's got to start with, like, a schedule, right?
Yeah.
It just has to start with, like, I'm putting it on paper that this is when this thing has to go out.
And I think, like, we, definitely, with this and referendum and trying to reach, we've been doing this since we sat down in these chairs, and that's been our goal, is how to reach our community. We've said it over again, like, we hear many attacks and critiques. It's not, for not trying. So I want to give us grace there that we have moved the needle on how much we've communicated, but we're not also, at the same time, not saying that we have it down pat and have the best. There are so many areas that we want to improve. Again, it comes back to communication and PR for anything that we do. The big ticket item this time was the referendum. Is huge. It's not going away. I know that, but there are so many other things that we want to do and get out to our community and even get involvement. And that means having a better website or having, and so many things. And we are going to continue to work at them and find ways to fund that, because that's not easy. Sending out a mailer or sending out a flyer. So. We still have those goals and trying to figure that out at the same time.
Thank you for saying that, though, because I feel like every board member probably feels a little beat up right now, and we've done a really good job of making, like, if we, like, everybody who's been here since 2020, like, looking back, we've done a ton. And we're always listening and we're always growing, and I think we'll continue to. So thank you for reminding us to show ourselves some grace.
So I think out of that, one big question, well, one thing that is happening, and that hasn't stopped, it never stops, is that we are, the administrative team and board members are meeting to get facts to present at our next finance and facility meeting that will be joined. The next one will be, and we have to get that time and date out and have that advertised so we can continue our great work. So that's.
So we kind of need to think about timeline for that when, because I do think we need to take more than 7 days to just get our heads on straight of this, right? Like, to just rewrap our heads.
Which I think that's what I was saying, that work hasn't stopped, because it's getting our heads straight, but also getting facts again and presenting things that are already starting to, we're laying that work so that it is presented, so we can have it, even before we announce the meeting, that information is there for people to look at. Our capital projects plan, we have to look at it again. We've all looked at it many times, but we have to put it back out there. But gathering those facts so that meeting is productive, and maybe that information is out. But
well, and to that, I don't think we should rush it.
Okay.
I don't think we should be like, holy crap, we have to have a meeting, right? Like, I don't think that we should rush it. I do think that we should take some time to actually you know, just take some time to gather the information, to let it sit, to think about a number of things. And I don't want to take a boatload of time. So I don't know what the board appetite is for like when, you know, we schedule another finance meeting, finance facilities, or whatever we were calling the special ad hoc committee. It's all
I
the
think this
Fs.
one will be a finance and facilities meeting and call it what it is. And my thought, I think it's time enough, but I think, you know, give ourselves at least, with the goal of having it in a month. You know, it could be before that, but I'm just saying at least to take that time. And it's time to give people time to make plans to attend that. So if we have that date out, have to allow that, like you said, that breath.
And can we advertise that meeting? You know, can we send out emails? How will we send out for the school board meeting? Can we send out for a committee meeting? You know, can we
I
advertise?
mean, yeah, I do think like I've seen.
Advertise it more,
yeah.
social media.
In this process, I've seen a bunch of school boards that utilize board docs, that put their committee meetings on board docs. And we just post all of our committee meetings. Like, it can't hurt.
Right.
I think we started that, but it's just, we still have others,
We
like
haven't
our
started
policies.
emailing them.
No, not emailing,
Yeah.
but I mean.
We haven't started what?
We don't email out our committee meetings.
Yeah, we've
We
never
don't
done that
post
that I remember,
Yeah.
at least not as part of the standard meetings. I mean, I know we've had some special committee meetings that have been advertised via email, communicated via email, but I don't remember there being an email to the district that said, there's a finance committee meeting next Tuesday. I don't
No.
remember ever seeing that.
They are posted, but
Posted,
we could
but
do
not,
better.
we could
But
do
not
more
the
in
emails.
terms of communicating.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So,
One quick question about
Yeah.
that. I know we had, I don't remember how long ago it was, but I do remember that we had said, okay, here are the committee meetings for the calendar, for the school year, not the calendar year, for the school year 24-25. Have we run the course of finance committee meetings of the ones that were originally scheduled?
I think we have to go.
Don't think so.
No, there
because
should have been something scheduled about this time because it's budget review
it would-
time.
Right, it would probably have been next week or May 13th meeting.
Yeah, I want to
We
double check
decided to
before I
move
say.
it
It would
to
have been
before
last
the
month, I believe,
meetings.
but since Anthony's out, we haven't had it.
But I think it's something, because we had the ad hocs, we didn't, having those meetings plus the other meetings, we didn't want to do, so I think.
Okay, so we have another board meeting in 2 weeks that has a PR committee in front of it, committee meeting in front of it. And then we have another board meeting on May
May 13th.
13th that has no committee meeting in front of it, right?
Right.
Can we, shouldn't
Do something for
shouldn't that be the
May.
date?
You
I
think
mean,
it's going to be more than
Absolutely.
an hour, though?
It's gotta be.
I think so, because
It just seems
it won't have
plausible to me.
another
I
one
don't-
for a month.
And honestly, I think an hour is all we need right now to just hear some different, right now. Like, I think that's a good starting point, to just dialogue about ideas. A brainstorming.
So projectedly,
May 13th, Facilities and Finance meeting, 5:30 on May 13th.
to be confirmed, if we have, and where to be confirmed.
Where?
Yeah.
It would be here.
Here? Oh, yeah, that's right, just right before this one.
I'm going to be brief about the referendum. I just want to say this. I didn't know Mr. Dan Charleston was coming tonight, but I'm so glad he did. It's beautiful what he had to say. I think these 7 people who serve on this board are unbelievably compassionate human beings, very intelligent and thoughtful people who give selflessly to this community and came up with the best vision they could for dealing with a problem that's persisted in this community for decades. They're amazing people. The community needs to know that. They really are. I see them in and out, and it's a selfless, thankless job, and Dan did a beautiful job of outlining that. So I really appreciate you coming forward and saying that, and these 7 people deserve that. And I've worked with boards for over 30 years, so I know what I'm talking about. Second thing, I'd be remiss not to thank the so many citizens who really put their heart and soul into trying to support the district in this initiative. Boyer Zakiri, Dana Hajak, and so many other thoughtful people who really fought for what they believed in. And they gave so many hours of their time because they wanted to better our community, and I'm very grateful to them, and I'd be remiss not to say that. People who vote against the referendum, you could never find one moment where I said they didn't care about our kids. I don't believe that. What really happened here is a difference in vision. What we presented, I think, was outstanding. I hold to that. But it doesn't matter what I think. The community gets to decide. That's what democracy is all about. And what we presented, I think, was a very well thought out plan. I thought we were completely transparent. People said we went on a location. We gave a location. They wanted more information and details. We did that. They wanted more time. We did that. We reduced the cost. At the end of the day, it was a difference of vision. Some people in this community want something different, and that's okay. That doesn't mean they don't love kids. Never, ever would say that. But there were things that were said that were blatantly untrue, and if anybody wants to have people say that the buildings are half empty, that's just not accurate. Walk our buildings, make an appointment with me, and I'll walk the building, any building. There are a couple classrooms that are not utilized in this district, but that's just not accurate. And if people say, you know what, we want neighborhood schools, that's fair. That's a difference in vision. It doesn't mean those people are wrong or they don't love kids. I know they do. Or we don't want to spend that much money. I respect that. That is a community's decision. Or other reasons that are valid, that we want to renovate and not build a new building, even though that's not what the majority of the community said originally. There are a lot of valid reasons that people could come up with to not support this ballot initiative. Where the school is located, wanting neighborhood schools, wanting to renovate, can't bear any more tax burden. Those are very real, valid arguments against the referendum we put forward. But what's not healthy is to engage in the bashing of our own school district, and that is going to harm our kids that we all love together. So this board is incredible, human beings, thoughtful, intelligent, caring. We have a community that I know loves our kids. I appreciate those who fought for what they believed in on either side. But I think really, for the sake of the kids that we all love, we got to be very careful about how we communicate with each other. Because I'll tell you what, we have an incredible school district. People can think I'm exaggerating. The evidence is plentiful if you want to really be honest and assess it. This is an outstanding school district. People want to come and work here. People recognize us for that all the time. So, and we'll go forward. We'll find a way. We're all too good. We'll find a solution. But like Jess said earlier, something needs to happen because we have to do something with these buildings. They need repair. Now, what the vision is, we need to go forward on. But at the end of the day, it's just a difference in vision. And that is how I feel about what transpired here. And if the community doesn't want the vision we presented, that's their right. I don't get a vote in this district on that. But I'll tell you, every decision that's made here is out of love for kids. And if you disagree with the vision, that is democracy. So, but we'll find a way going forward. And because these kids are too valuable and we have too great of a school district.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we're going to move to our action items. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the continued employment of non-tenured teachers and tenure recommendations as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. Number 2, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the resolution to dismiss the following custodial employee for reasons other than RIF: Christopher Bosniak.
So
moved.
Banasiak.
Oh,
Sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Dr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Stuckady?
Yes.
Motion carries. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the multi-year contracts for the high school principal, Dr. Kevin Weck, and Manning Elementary Principal, Dr. Kevin Ryan, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Before you vote, could we please have Dr. Ryan introduce himself to our community? And then I have a few quick comments, and then, this is Dr. Kevin Ryan, everybody. He currently, he may tell you this, he currently serves as the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning in North Shore District 112. He has a distinguished career. I'll have more to say about that in a moment. But I could not be happier for our students and our staff and CUSD 201 school community. We have an exceptional individual who we're recommending for the principalship at Manning. Dr. Ryan?
Well, thank you very much. So I just wanted to reiterate something that Superintendent Balderman said earlier, which was this district is phenomenal, and it does attract high-quality candidates, and people do want to come work here, you know, and I think there are two instances today within this board meeting itself that really made me excited about joining the team. You know, one was the way you are all modeling what a professional learning community is at the highest level, right? Because those things trickle down, and so, you know, it's not very often at board levels do you see people discussing, you know, having these great conversations, learning from each other, reflecting upon, you know, missteps or things that went well, and really having those deep, thoughtful conversations. And two was the great presentation by your high school, you know, really thinking about like, wow, your teachers got together and put together a plan and put kids first. And you don't always see that, right? I mean, there are a lot of things that always get in the way, but they put all that aside and really put kids first, which is truly amazing. And the fact that, you know, they came here with the administration and collaborated, you know, how cool is that? So it just is another reason that I'm excited to be a part of this school district. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you to the board, you know, thank you to Superintendent Balderman, thank you to the interview committee for allowing me to be a part of this amazing district. You know, I am going to bring a passion and a laser-like focus on student growth, you know, not just academically, but also growth from a social emotional standpoint, from just a human being standpoint for our students. I'm really excited about working with the phenomenal staff at Manning, you know, and really working with them to continue to develop a culture, you know, where we put kids first, where we provide an environment where teachers, staff, and students all feel safe, and they feel supported, and they feel empowered to collaborate with each other. Sorry, with that said, I just once again wanted to say, you know, thank you. I'm super excited about being a part of this district and looking at continuing the great growth that Manning has made over the last several years. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. So Dr. Ryan currently serves as the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning in North Shore School District 112. He has over 20 years' experience as an educational leader. We had nearly 50 applicants for the Manning principalship. We went through a rigorous screening process. Then we involved about a dozen parents, a dozen staff members, most of our administrative team, board members, and second grade students from Ms. Bartos's class. That was an interesting component of the interview process where the principal candidates had to sit down with the second graders and interact. And under the watchful eye of Ms. Bartos and Ms. Dispenza and Ms. Corrington, we saw how the principal candidates interacted with the young people, because that's the job. Now, on paper, you're not, you know, Dr. Ryan's quite frankly overqualified. He's got amazing expertise in teaching and learning process, and he's led principals at a high-performing district for years. So for us to have him as the principal of Manning is spectacular. The question I had is, how does somebody with this deep background in leadership interact with second graders? And he excelled there. There's a famous story that people in grammar schools know. It's a book called Know David, where a young kid keeps getting in trouble over and over again. And Dr. Ryan talked about how he acts out that part in front of students to teach them in a fun way how to act appropriately. We're getting a superstar. This is one of the most important decisions we have to make. I know the principalship. I've been a principal over 30 years. I've trained principals all over the country. And we are getting more than I even hoped for. And that is an amazing individual in Dr. Kevin Ryan with a wealth of experience, a tremendous heart. And I hope I may overshare, but I want to say this. When I called Kevin and I said, Kevin, you know, we didn't pass this referendum. Are you still interested in being this district? He did not flinch. He wants to make a powerful difference. And that just impresses the heck out of me. And his commitment to learning is primary, and he has the people skills and the relationship skills, and most importantly, the heart to make a powerful difference for students and support his teachers, because he knows the only way you get students to the next level is if you develop your team. And the team at Manning is excellent. They deserve and need a skilled leader, somebody with Kevin's expertise and knowledge to continue us on this journey of excellence. They're exemplary. We're super proud of them. Lindsay and Jada have been great leaders in that building, but we're going to continue that journey, and Kevin is an outstanding candidate for this.
Good. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay. Roll call.
Ms. Fredonia?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Dr. Hoover?
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations. All right, we have our superintendent's report.
I've said a lot tonight. Keep it 60 seconds.
Carlos is looking at you.
Right.
Put me on the clock, Carlos. 60 seconds.
He's already down 5.
I just am so proud of this is a testing week for our younger kids. The teachers and kids are on point, walking the buildings. Everybody has worked so hard. I'm so proud of our kids and our teachers for all they do on a daily basis. It's really impressive. And so all we ask them to do is do their best, and it'll be good enough. And the teachers have done really great work preparing our kids and growing their learning. The test scores are secondary to the learning growth. And it is evident that's happening because our teachers and support staff work their tails off, and the kids are very diligent and focused. I couldn't be prouder of them.
Any questions for Jack? All right, we're moving to our board reports. I'll start us off with just my sense of awe. I did attend with the high school team, well, not team, but a group of high schoolers and a few administrators, a trip to Japan, and led by Mr. Landreth and Coach Dunn, who I am more in awe of how they interact with their students, the trust and that the students give to them and the respect that the students give to them. They ran a very, very impactful trip that the students were awesome with, great representatives of our school, and people asked, even me on a plane, like, who are these group of students? Oh my gosh, you know, attending. I think one of the things I was most scared of was meditation. Like, oh gosh, these kids are not going to sit through a meditation series, but they were great. They were great learners and asked great questions. So I know they've done this for a while, and you can tell, Mr. Dunn and Mr. Landers, that they have a system, but they were great. There are 47 in the group, and we were on planes. We took bullet trains. We were taking the tram within a crowded city, and everyone's back. It's something that's costly, but if it's something that, you know, these kids get to do, I would recommend it. Great experience, and again, for these high schoolers to get that opportunity is great. So, great job to that team. Dr. Weck was also there again. The time he took sitting with kids, talking with them, getting their real feedback. And I got to witness that, and that was great. So, anything else? No? So we don't have any other public comment, is that right? Or do we? Okay. Thank you. We have Dana Hayjack.
Hi, guys. I'm Dana Hayjack. I'm a community member. I have a high schooler, junior high student, and a student over at Manning as well. I wanted to start my public comment by repeating sentiment that's been said by a few people up here and thank Ange Steckity for her service to our community. It's been a while since we were sitting on your back patio convincing each other that this was a good idea, and I'm so glad that we did. And I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of you for always standing up for what you believe in, even if it's not what I believe in or somebody else believes in. But we always knew where you stood on everything, and you were just very bold in your vision of what you thought was possible, and I'm grateful for you. Secondarily, I'm really glad we keep talking about committees. I sent an email to the board and Mr. Baldwin this week asking for more accessibility of that information for the public. I've attended several committee meetings, and at times it's like a Where's Waldo situation to like figure out when the meeting is, where the meeting is. I am signed up for the emails from the district, so I will get an alert that one's coming up, but that's usually a few days before to a week before the event, and I know that that can sometimes be difficult for people who are trying to secure childcare, who are trying to, work around schedules and stuff like that. I like the idea of setting at least those standing committee dates and having those out there so that people can plan, so that our communication as a community about our vision and what we want to see and our questions and our solutions and our answers are being held in a committee setting and less of a online setting. I don't think, I'm personally not on Facebook. I don't think it's a very good forum to have these sort of conversations, and I'm really hopeful that we can bring those conversations more to these committee meetings, and I think accessibility is one way that we can at least make it more possible for people to have that forum. I'm also talking to the community and saying, show up. Show up to those meetings. I've been off and on a few different committees. I'll show up to this one for a few times, and then I'll go bump over to that one. PR is one that I've never shown up to. I like how it's kind of been pushed more to the front in recent years of this is something we need to focus on. I will be attending the meeting coming up. But we all have a lot going on. I work a full-time job. My husband works a full-time job. We got 3 kids. We're shuffling everything all around. We can always find an excuse to not. And what we need to start telling ourselves is, I don't need to do all the things. I need to do something, and I need to do it well. Okay? So if that finance talk, grateful for you. Love that you're all, that's not something I'm going to be good at, okay? I would have to sit down with you and you'd have to dumb it down to like my level for me, right? But other things I can do, and I can do those things well. And there's people in this community that can fill the gap of where I'm not well. And if we start working together in that way and filling those gaps and showing up to the places where the change can happen and where the solutions can be figured out, that's when we're going to start making jumps. I have been a Westmont resident for over 35 years. I'm a product of these schools. I graduated from the high school, and I came back not expecting what I got, to be completely honest. This district has done some outstanding things for our kids in the recent decade. And it can do even more, but we as a community at some point have to step in and say, I'm in, how can I help? And that's our role as community members. My dad's a retired fireman. I dragged him to a town hall. I made him be involved in the situation. I made people that I care about, who I know have a vested interest in this community, see where they could figure out how they could be part of this. We don't all need to do all the things, but we all need to do something. And I just really ask the community that that something be productive in a way that we're not blaming teachers, and we're not blaming staff, and we're not saying, well, this person should do this. What should you do? What can you do? That's what we should be asking ourselves. And it was really hard for a lot of our staff members to live through this referendum season because, and this isn't just our community, it happens a lot where the finger gets pointed at them. Well, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? Why don't you take a pay cut? Why don't you retire early? Why don't you do all of these things? Spoiler alert, the only thing that I got from the finance, 85% of our expenditure is their salary. Yes, it is. And without them, we don't have a school district. We don't have schools. We don't have those things. So the investment in our staff, both financially and with how we communicate and we speak about them, is important. And I just hope moving forward that we can remember, like Jack had said, it's important to our kids too to see how this conversation is being had. And there are times in the last year that I don't know that we would want our kids to have seen what was said. And that's what I walk away from this experience being a little regretful about, is how this all kind of blew up in a situation that we started attacking each other instead of talking to each other. Right? And I encourage everybody to take it offline and take it to a committee room. And that's how we're going to better this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, we're going to move to our future meetings and events. We have the Westmont Junior High School Talent Show, April 11th, 6 p.m. Westmont High School. I just thought, it's like, oh, we're not going to see Aiden at that. There's no school attendance April 18th and the 21st. Our next CUSD 201 regular meeting of the Board of Education will be April 22nd, 6:30 p.m., Village Hall, with a prior committee meeting for PR at 5:30. And with that, we're not attending closed session. So the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the April 8th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks for being here. Meeting adjourned.